a theory of becoming as a leader, coach, consultant, or entire organization. So I started with kind of my work in Michael Boje. I spent 10 years looking at Heidegger and all the theories of becoming there. And I decided, hey, it's time to step away from Heidegger. Man's anti-Semitic and affiliated with Hitler. And I'm one of the critics that says that his theory of authenticity needs to be suspiciously looked at. But he does mention the word becoming 34 times in Being and Time. Then I switched to Karen Barad, which I was studying for a long time as well. And she has a theory of becoming that's part of her agential realism and the agential cut. So that's another way to look at becoming. And finally I said, okay, I'm really influenced by Tom Lemke's books. So I decided to return to my Christian roots and also my Jainism roots, but here it's the Christian ones, and go through the Old and New Testaments like I used to do with a concordance and looking for the word becoming and notions of becoming, and I found another approach to becoming. So I put all three under a lens and said, well, what can I use to understand what we call growth OD, growth organizational development of leaders, consultants, coaches, artists, and the whole organization. And this is what I came up with for the Enthinkment Circle. We're going to review it today and see if it has any merit for the Growth OD Monday meeting coming up on Zoom. So go to growthod.org, go to enthinkment.com, and you'll find out all about it. I try to cite the sources there, and we got a really good think tank going to go over this whole thing today.
Today, we're jumping into the work of Dr. David Michael Boje and his really fascinating theory of becoming. It's a powerful way to think about how leaders and, well, whole organizations actually transform.
So let's start with a big question, one that kind of cuts through a lot of the leadership advice we always hear. We get told, transform overnight. Just flip a switch and you're a new and improved leader. But let's be real. Is that really how growth works? The truth is, as Dr. Boje saw, and as probably all of us have felt, it's way different. Real growth isn't some clean, straight line to the top. It's usually a pretty messy, winding road. You've got these amazing moments of progress and then these super frustrating setbacks. And it was exactly this gap between the fantasy and the reality that pushed him to create a more honest model for how we become something new.
Okay, so let's get into the core concept here. At the absolute heart of Boje's theory is this term he came up with, and it's a really powerful one.
That term is forecaring. And this one idea, it really asks us to shift how we think. It's about pulling yourself out of just putting out fires all day. Forecaring is this active, intentional process of looking ahead, of really anticipating what's coming down the road and letting that vision of the future shape what you do today. You can think of it as the engine that drives this whole journey of becoming.
So what does this journey actually look like? Well, Boje breaks it all down into a super practical framework with 3 distinct stages. And I bet any leader or organization out there is going to recognize these immediately. First up is naive zeal. You know the type, right? Think of a brand new startup founder or manager who just got promoted. They've got endless energy, massive ambition, but not a lot of that hard-won, battle-tested wisdom. Boje actually compares this to the simple in the book of Proverbs. It's this critical fork in the road. Are you going to choose to listen and learn? Or are you just going to charge ahead kind of blind?
Now, if you take that path of learning, you enter stage 2. You become the disciplined learner. And this is where the growth really, really accelerates. This is all about actively hunting for feedback, building a tight circle of advisors you can trust, and making reflection a non-negotiable part of how you make decisions. This is where you're really building the muscle to lead well.
And all that hard work, it pays off. It leads to the third and final stage, skilled leadership. At this point, wisdom isn't something you have to go looking for. It's just become a habit. It's baked into everything. Your decisions, how you communicate, even the way you set up incentives, it all just flows from these deep, mature principles. And the whole organization starts to look like this, focusing on legacy and long-term impact.
So, this progression is everything. You start with that raw energy of naive zeal, you move into the intentional, focused growth of the disciplined learner, and you land in the ingrained wisdom of skilled leadership. This isn't some abstract idea, it's a clear, recognizable path for development in the real world.
Now, this practical framework didn't just appear out of thin air. Dr. Boje actually weaves together this really rich tapestry of ideas from philosophy and even from ancient wisdom to give it all this depth. He actually started out getting inspiration from the philosopher Martin Heidegger, who saw becoming as this kind of existential journey through time. But later on, he shifted his focus to the work of Karen Barad, who offers a totally different take. For Barad, becoming is all about agential realism, which is a fancy way of saying that our actual, concrete actions and decisions, which he calls cuts, literally create new realities.
And it's really important to add a critical note here. Dr. Boje himself is very clear about distancing his own work from Heidegger. He cites Heidegger's deeply problematic political ties to National Socialism and his anti-Semitism, and for a lot of people, those associations just taint his philosophical ideas.
And this table here, it just brilliantly lays out all these different perspectives. You can see how each one thinks about the stages of becoming. For Heidegger, it's about this rise and fall over time. For Barad, it's about those physical cuts that make new realities pop into existence. And then you see the biblical tradition, which Boje points out frames it as a path toward wisdom, which, of course, lines up perfectly with those 3 leadership stages we just talked about.
Speaking of those deeper roots, Dr. Boje brings up this incredible metaphor from the Psalms. It's an ancient image, but man, it just perfectly captures the feel of mature, resilient leadership.
So let's break this down. A leader who's like this tree, they're rooted in something way deeper than just the latest quarterly report. They're grounded in purpose, in values. And that's what makes them resilient, able to get through the storms and the bad market cycles that always come. They're not just bearing fruit for themselves, but for everybody else through mentorship and building a legacy. And get this, they stay innovative and full of life, even as the organization gets older.
So, okay, this is all fascinating theory, but what do we actually do with it? How do we take all this and apply it to our own work, our own lives? Let's get practical. The first step is just some honest self-assessment. Turn the lens on yourself. When you look at those 3 stages, naive zeal, disciplined learner, and skilled leadership, where do you see yourself right now? And remember, the idea isn't to just race to the finish line. It's to really understand what each stage demands from you.
And once you know where you are, you can take some really clear, practical steps. 1. Just acknowledge your current stage, no judgment. 2. Build the support structures you need for growth. Maybe that's a personal board of advisors. Maybe it's a peer group for some honest talk. And 3, actively practice forecaring. Literally schedule time to look past the urgent stuff and anticipate what's coming.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. Based on everything we've just gone over, what stage of becoming really describes you, or maybe your organization, right now? And maybe even more important, what's the very next step? Just one step that you need to take on that path. Because as Dr. Boje puts it so perfectly, every stage is an arena for transformation. It's not just a checkpoint to get through or a crisis you have to survive. It is the very place where your transformation is already happening, right now.